Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. I'm gonna give it just a second before we get started. Apologize, I'm not feeling the best, feeling a little under the weather. We're gonna give it just a couple minutes before we get started, but appreciate y'all. If you can do me a favor, like, share, invite somebody in. Like I said, we're gonna get started here in just a little bit. Hey Jesse, hey Dex. Appreciate you guys. Like I said, I'm just feeling a little under the weather. I'm gonna be all right here. Gonna get it moving in the right direction. But we got a pretty good topic, I think, tonight. It's something that's been kind of heavy on me, and I wanted to share it tonight. So I hope it's something y'all will enjoy. But if you can invite someone in, share it. We will go ahead and get started here in just a second. For those of you in the local in the Olean area, um, want to encourage you tomorrow night at they did it tonight as well, but tomorrow night at 6:30, they will be taking public comment on the police reform plan and proposal and the civilian review board, that information. So the Zoom information will be available tomorrow. That'll be at 6:30 tomorrow. So I want to encourage you to get involved and even if you're not in this local area, I want to encourage you to get involved in local politics. A lot of times we don't get involved in things because it doesn't directly affect us, but that can be the surefire way to ensure that things end up affecting us negatively in the future. So, I want to encourage you to get involved in your local communities and make sure that things are being done in the best interest of the people. So, want to encourage you there most definitely to get involved there. And like I said, if you're in the local Olean, New York area, tomorrow at 6:30 via Zoom, they'll be taking public comments in reference to police reform and civilian review board. Want to encourage you to make your voice heard there. But we are going to go ahead and get started. If you haven't already, I want to encourage you to go ahead and invite somebody in, like, share. But I want to thank you for tuning in for another episode of Reflections with Dr. Gary Harvey. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. Definitely trying to continue to grow and continue to branch out and do different things, kind of build this media hub, so to speak. Reached out via our Facebook page and Instagram and asking for people, if you want to be involved. So we have some different concepts that we're looking at just to kind of get through some house cleaning business, so to speak. So the panel that we do on Thursdays, house call, we're always looking for other people to get involved in that, male or female, doesn't matter. We're always looking for individuals to join with us and to continue to add to the conversation and discussion there. So if you're interested there, we would like for you, to reach out to us, send us a message, let us know. Excuse me, if you're interested in being a regular contributor or even just on occasion. I have had some people reach out in reference to being periodic guests, which is outstanding. The other thing as well is we're also looking at doing like an all female panel, similar to kind of like the View, I think it's called, something to that effect, to lend a different perspective on various topics as well. So if you're interested in something like that, we want to encourage you to get involved. Like we announced a couple weeks ago, we're in the process of creating and developing a show that is more or less geared around politics, preferably, or the thought process is more or less local politics, or like state politics, but we can explore and branch out more. But we want to encourage you to get involved. We want more people to get involved. If you have other ideas and thought processes as far as various things to add to and to contribute, we are looking. When I talk about Media Hub, we're talking about like a streaming channel, like a network, is what we are in the process of building, and want to give opportunity for people to get involved. What's up, Ez? Appreciate you joining. And all you guys that have already shown and been showing the support, we really appreciate it. Honestly, it's because of you guys that we're able to even pursue this Media Hub, and definitely am very, very thankful for that. And with that being said, if you've enjoyed any of the content that we've put out, help us out with that Instagram and that Facebook algorithm, and help get us in front of more people, and just shoot us a quick review recommendation on Facebook. It definitely helps out. Believe it or not, it doesn't cost anything to help support. And I preach that a lot with a lot of the businesses and organizations that we shout out on the program as well. You can support a small business, and you can support entrepreneurs and authors without having to come out of pocket oftentimes. And so definitely want to encourage that as well. If you can take a minute, if we've blessed you with any of the content that we've provided, definitely want to encourage you to do that. It definitely helps us out, and we definitely appreciate it. It definitely means a lot, and definitely helps us out here. And so with that being said, definitely want to shout out Living Beauty Florals, down in Jacksonville, Florida. Miss Chanel Lee, she's always doing big things, and very creative, and for all your floral needs, especially if you're in that area, hit her up. And definitely works of art. You won't be disappointed at all with what she does, and what she's able to do. And here in the Olean area, if you are into food prepping, or you just, you don't have time to make sure you've got your meals made up, I want to encourage you to check out Go-To Meals for all your prepping needs. Or even if you just want to have meals ready to go ahead and check them out. I've never been disappointed, and you guys know, I mean, you can see me, I'm a big dude, and I'm not going to steer you wrong as far as food's concerned. So check them out as well. Definitely won't be disappointed there. But excuse me, we're going to go ahead and jump into tonight's topic. Of course, mirrors, they got three purposes: who you were, show you who you are, and help you become who it is you want to be. So we're going to take a minute tonight. We're going to face our reflection. We're going to face the man in the mirror, see if we can't become better than what it was that we started. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about tonight's topic. And it's a real simple topic, but I think it's a crucial topic. It's a critical topic oftentimes that we fail to recognize oftentimes in our lives. And very simply, to title tonight's episode, it's very simply: stop digging up your seed. Stop digging up your seed. Now, like I said, I'm feeling a little under the weather. It's probably not going to be a very long episode tonight. I apologize there, but I think it's going to be very, very easy to get into said topic, and really get into the meat of what it is. And so when you're planting a seed, right, whether it's for a crop, whether it's you're expecting a harvest, you're expecting those fruits, those vegetables to grow, you're expecting a flower to bloom. When you plant the seed, there's a process that takes place, right? You plant the seed, you have to water it, you've got to make sure that it's in good soil. It takes time, right? You have to care for it. You have to make sure that there's no weeds that's going to choke out the seed as it grows, and as the plant grows. And you've got to make sure that it gets the right sunlight, and the soil has the nutrients that it needs, and the proper water, et cetera, et cetera, those types of things. But if you don't allow it to go through its process, then it's never going to come to fruition. What it's supposed to grow into is never going to happen. And I think oftentimes that tends to be the case. That tends to be what we we happen to run into oftentimes, is we go to do something in our lives and we're not quite satisfied with the pace that things are happening. So we attempt to start it all over again, right? We like, let's say, specifically for us, like in the church, right? Us Christians, we talk about our calling, right? I'll revert back to that, being in ministry, my calling, right? So it's like, well, God called me to preach, so I begin to do the things that I know to do and that scripture tells me to do, and I begin to study, and I begin to work in ministry, and find someone to mentor me, and I begin being active in my prayer life, personal Bible study, and personal prayer time and study time, and I get opportunities to minister. But then, as I'm sitting in a church and sitting and ministering, I'm not satisfied with how quickly the pastor is recognizing the call of God on my life, because I'm called to preach, I'm called to be a pastor. And so I get upset and I get impatient, and I decide to up and leave the church and go start my own church because I'm called to pastor, I'm called to preach. And so what do? I dig up my seed and I take it somewhere else, and I start this other ministry, and I start this church, and I start pastoring because I'm called to be a pastor, and I fall flat on my face and the seed dies. Why? Because it wasn't time to repot the plant. You hear what I'm saying? Like, as you're growing, like, when I talk about Miss Chanel, right, and her company down there in Jacksonville, Living Beauty Florals, and what she does, there's a time when you're growing, when plants are growing, that they outgrow the pot that they're in, especially like house plants, right? There's a point where they outgrow the pot that they're in, and you have to repot that plant. Well, if I don't repot it at the appropriate time, or if I stay keep it in that pot for too long, I can damage the plant. And oftentimes what happens is we get impatient and we try to repot before it's time, or we get lazy and we get comfortable and we don't repot when we're supposed to. And so we end up in a situation where we hinder the process. And oftentimes we tend to dig up our seed because we're impatient. Oftentimes it's not because we wait too long, but it's because we're too hasty in what it is that we do. You look at individuals now that try to play the stock market, they really have no concept of the stock market, right? They get in and they purchase stock and they invest, and now all of a sudden, oh well, I'm losing money, I got to get out, I got to get out. They don't understand that sometimes you got to wait out this wave, right? You got to wait it out. And if you don't let your seed stay in the ground, if you don't let it take root, if you don't allow it to grow, if you don't allow it to go through a process, it's never going to give you the fruit that it's supposed to give you. And oftentimes in our life, we do different things, whether it's in our personal lives, whether it's in our families, whether it's on the job, whether it's as an entrepreneur, whether it's investments, whether it's in the church, whether it's in, our walks of faith, regardless of what it is. Oftentimes we don't allow the time necessary, we don't allow the process to take place, we don't discipline ourselves enough to go through the process in order for the fruit to truly come to pass. And so, because of that, because we're so impatient and we're not satisfied with the results, we continually dig up our seed and try to plant it somewhere else. Well, eventually, you're going to dig that seed up so many times that it's not going to grow. It's going to be worthless, and you're going to have to get a new seed. And I'm not, oftentimes when you talk about seed in the church, right, a lot of times, most Christians, when you talk about seed in the church, they think you're talking financial, and I'm not even talking financial. I'm just talking about you investing your time in something, right? Like, if you invest your time in things, excuse me, I'm sorry, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize, I am feeling a little under the weather. But if you're investing your time in something, right, the Bible says, right, scripture says, not to despise the small things, right? Like, not to despise small beginnings, right? So things don't always, like when I started this podcast, right, I had a hard time getting friends and family to pay attention to the podcast. Sometimes even now I can't get friends and family to pay attention to the podcast. I've got some relatives that, they're gung ho and motivated. Oh, let's support everybody, but they support everybody but me. It's funny how that works out. Some of my closest friends and family, that I'll support in everything that they do, they don't reciprocate. And that's okay. Like I don't say that as a negative. Like that's perfectly fine. It is what it is, you know. And it's not, you like don't misunderstand me. It is not being said as a negative. Time some of my biggest supporters through this whole podcast adventure have been strangers. They've been people that I haven't met, or they've been people that I've met through the process. And that's perfectly fine. That's acceptable. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And the reason I'm pointing that out is because it's been part of the process. See, if I would have got caught up on who was and was not supporting me in the beginning, I would have gotten frustrated and I would have dug up my seat. I would have stopped the podcast and I would have done something else. But because I've allowed the seed to stay planted. I allowed the seed to stay where it was at. And whether I have 5 people that watch or listen to the podcast, or whether I have 18, or whether I have 100, or whether I have, regardless of what it's been, the podcast is now listened to in multiple countries, almost every one of the 50 states. I've made friends and made, connections through the podcast that I never would have made, previously, all because I allowed the seed to stay planted and allowed it to take root. Sometimes you've got to go through those painful processes and those difficult times. When you plant a seed, the very next day, you don't have a plant bursting through the soil oftentimes. It's not the very next day that something's growing and bursting through the soil. And the other thing as well is that seed is going through this process. It's dying as it's giving life, right? It goes through this process, it dies, and then it gives life, and it has to push and work its way through the soil. That's not an easy process. And through that whole thing, you have to make sure that you're nurturing it, right? The soil has to have the right nutrients. Like we said before, you've got to water it. It's got to have the right amount of sunlight. There's several plants and fruits and vegetables that can only grow in certain types of climate. And so that's the other thing that you have to consider when you go to plant your seed. Are you planting in the right soil, right? Even scripture talks about, and you guys know me, especially because of my background, I lean heavily on scripture. Scripture talks to us about, hey, what kind of soil is that seed falling on? Is it falling on rocky soil? Is it falling on fertile soil? Is it falling on a soil that's covered with vines? Is it, because all these things are going to affect it, and you have to be mindful of how you're approaching things. Some of the people that are in your circle because they're waiting for you to dig up your seed. They're waiting for you to fail. Some of your people in your camp are solely in your camp to be able to go, I told you so. And I love those people in my camp. Why? Because I get to tell them, I told you so. See, I'm the kind of person, if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to figure out how to do it, and I'm going to do it and take pictures. Because at the end of the day, like I say so often, and I learned so long ago, a man with an experience is never at the mercy of a man with an argument. You can't tell me what can't be done because I know what I'm able to do. And many of you know I made the decision that I'm going to go ahead and I'm running for mayor of Olean. Like it is what it is. And I made an attempt to seek out an endorsement from the Democratic Party, and they made the decision not to endorse me. Oh man, well that hurt. It made it difficult. It made it a little bit of an obstacle. And well, it's not an obstacle, it's an opportunity. Well, Dr. Harvey, how is it an opportunity? Well, because it's an opportunity for this plant to take fruition and grow in the midst of adversity. It's an opportunity to say, listen, we can still get things done for the people. It's an opportunity. Like I could dig up my seed and I could get upset frustrated and I could stop pushing and I could stop doing some things. But the fact of the matter is that my seed is rooted in principle. My seed is rooted in what I believe needs to happen and needs to take place. And that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. And see, oftentimes when things get difficult, we want to dig up our seed and we want to take it to where it's going to be easy. There was a decision I could have made that would have made things easier, but that doesn't mean the plant would have grown. Hello, somebody. Just because the soil looks good doesn't mean the soil is good. Just because the path seems easy doesn't mean the path is easy. Doesn't mean the path will take you where you need to go just because the path looks like it's a shortcut. Oftentimes, the shortcuts can cause more problems. See, y'all ain't hearing me. You ever been with somebody and they be like, listen, take this shortcut. I know it'll get us there faster. And you end up late to the event because you took that shortcut? That's because you dug up your seed instead of just allowing your seed to go through the process. See, oftentimes like I said, we've just got to be willing to go through the process. If you're willing to go through the process and allow your seed to take root, once it takes root, and you got to be diligent, don't misunderstand me. It's not going to be easy. You got to be diligent to continue to water and nurture that seed. So as it grows into a sapling and it goes from being a sapling and now it begins to grow, you still got to protect it, right? You got to protect it from the elements. You got to make sure that the soil stays full of nutrients. You got to make sure that it stays watered. You got to make sure that it stays protected, right? From the environment, from insects, etc. Right? Now it can go and now it can start to bear fruit. But if you know anything about fruits and vegetables, when it first starts to bloom, when it first starts to produce the fruit, it's not ready right away. It still takes some time. You still got to protect it. It's not ready right away, even though it might look ready. I had, there was a time when I was, go ahead and pick that habanero pepper. It's green. It's fine. It's not going to be hot. Yeah, okay, I was an idiot. Yeah. Uh it's a process. And you've got to be able to get through the process. And it's okay. We've got to stop being afraid of the process. We've got to stop being afraid of putting in the work. We've got to stop being afraid of struggling a little bit. We got to stop being afraid of being diligent. We've got to stop being afraid of, you know what? Yeah. So things didn't go the way we wanted it to go, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to get my harvest. That doesn't mean that the flower's not going to bloom. Just because it didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen, just because I got to work doesn't mean I'm not going to reap the reward. If you allow the seed to stay planted, your flower will bloom. If you let it stay planted, if you don't dig it up, see, if you keep digging it up, it's going to die. It's never going to bloom. It's never going to bloom. So you're going to walk away with a whole lot of what ifs, and we're never going to know the answer. Well, preacher, you don't know if it was going to bloom. Well, neither do you, because you dug it up. At least if you would have left it in the ground, we would have found out. We can't even find out because you were scared. We can't even find out because you were lazy. We can't even find out because you couldn't commit. We can't find out because you were afraid. I got asked when I made the decision that I was going to run for mayor, like, are you really in this? Yeah, I'm in this. I'm in this. And I'm not in this because I made the decision lightly. I'm not in this like some people because it was a bucket list item for me to check off because, oh, it's something I want to do. No, I'm in this because some things need to change. I'm in this because the people deserve better. I'm in this because I understand the gravity and the weight behind it. And once I planted the seed, I understood that the people deserve more than me just digging it up and moving it because things don't go the way I want it to go. It doesn't operate like that. I don't have the luxury to dig it up and throw a temper tantrum because I didn't get what I wanted. And I also understand that I can't just move that seed because things don't go how I want it to go. You know what? It might not be my idea that works best. So you know what? Hey, maybe yours is better. So go ahead. We'll use your flower pot instead of my flower pot because your flower pot suits it better. I understand that. But I also understand that seeds got to stay in the ground in order for it to grow. And the same thing is true in your personal life. When you make a decision to something, commit to it. Commit to it. Just because it gets hard doesn't mean you throw up your hands and walk away from it. See that thing through the end. If it doesn't work, if you fail, guess what? That's okay. Take the L and learn the lesson. It's okay to take an L. It's okay to lose. It's okay to fail. It is perfectly acceptable to fail. 110%. It is okay to fail. You know what? And it's okay to quit. Well, what do you mean by that? We're not supposed to quit. No, 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 no. Listen, hear me out. Hear me out. Listen to what I'm saying. Sometimes you gotta quit. Well, what do you mean, preacher? Sometimes you gotta quit lying to yourself. Sometimes you gotta quit trying to, oh well, that's not an L. It's no, no, it was a loss. Stop lying to yourself. Sometimes you gotta quit trying to do things that aren't working for you. Sometimes you gotta quit trying to be other people. Be you. Be you. Pursue the things that you want to pursue. Figure out who you are. Listen, life's too short to not be you. Life is too short for you not to do the things that make you happy. Life's too short to not try to figure out what it is that you're here for. You're not here for anybody else other than what God has created for you to do. And once you figure out what your purpose is, and that purpose, to other people might be bigger, it might be small to other people. And it doesn't matter what it means to other people because it's not their purpose, it's your purpose. And because it's your purpose, it's meaningful. And so when you plant that seed of purpose, stop digging it up. Give it time to grow. It's not going to happen overnight because you've got to give it time. You've got to cultivate it. You've got to put work into it. You got to understand that some days it's going to be hot and that soil is going to be dry and you're going to have to put extra water on there. Some days you're going to have to pull weeds because you're going to find some things about yourself you're not going to like. You got to quit lying to yourself. I used to believe I could sing. I did. I used to believe I could sing. And when I was a kid, I say kid, I don't know how old I was exactly. I think I might have been in middle school. There was like I don't remember exactly what it was. It was like some kind of like county choir or something like that. And I auditioned for it and the instructor, he knew my parents really well, Mr. Sue, and he told my parents that he's like, hey, he can't sing. Well, come to find out, I had like these calluses on my vocal cords. I blame them, but everyone else in my family can sing. My parents, my brothers, they can all sing. They got amazing voices. And the joke became in my family that I was an excellent tuba player. I played tuba as a kid. That was the first instrument I learned how to play. And so every time I would try to sing, especially my dad, he'd be like, "Oh, you're an excellent tuba player." That was code for "Please stop singing. My ears are bleeding." And we live in a day and age where we're afraid to tell people the truth. Oh, you sing so nice. You said, no, listen, if you can't sing, you can't sing. Stop lying to yourself. It's okay. Listen, I love to sing, but I know I can't sing. So I was telling somebody the other night, like when I preach, right? I love singing preachers, right? That style, but I can't do it. I can't. It breaks my heart. It absolutely breaks my heart that I can't do it. I wish I could, but I can't. So I don't. It's heartbreaking, but I can't do it. Why? Because I acknowledge that I can't do it. You got to stop lying to yourself. So I quit trying, right? It was a weed I had to pull because I understood it wasn't me. I also understand that there's some other aspects about myself. I can be extremely passionate about things, and sometimes I have to make sure that that passion is translated in a way that people understand so I don't come across as offensive. Right. So I've got to cultivate my seed so it grows properly. And so it comes to a place to where it bears fruit because I want everyone to be able to benefit from the fruit. I don't want to be the only one that benefits from the fruit. But if I get frustrated every time something doesn't go my way and I dig my seed up and I take it somewhere else to plant it. Every time I get told no, every time I don't, something doesn't go in my favor, every time something doesn't work out how I think I should, every time I don't get my way, every time I don't get picked first in kickball, and I dig my seed up and take it somewhere else, then it's never going to grow. I'm never going to reach my potential. If as an entrepreneur, every time I try to launch a new idea or start that business, and every time I come across hardship, I dig my seed up and I quit and I go do something else, I'm never going to reach my potential. You know, in this campaign for mayor, to want to do something to help my city, if every time I run into an obstacle or I get frustrated or my patience is tried, if I dig this seed up and I just say, you know what, this just ain't for me, I'm just too frustrated, I can't do it, then the people aren't going to benefit. They're going to be stuck in the same machine that is more worried about an agenda than it's worried about them. And that's not going to benefit anybody. And that's not right. And we can sit and we can armchair quarterback life all day long, but until we plant our seed and we get involved and we get engaged and we lift our voices up and listen, some people, they're afraid to get off the bench and get out on the field. I get that. For whatever reason, they're afraid. But if I got to be that megaphone, if I got to be that amplifier for that voice, then I'll be that amplifier. If you want to call the plays from the sideline and I need to execute that play out on the field, I'll be the running back. I can handle that. I can make that happen, because at the end of the day, that's what the people deserve. And that's what I believe my seed is going to do. That's the fruit that's going to grow from my seed. But if I dig it up because I get frustrated, if I dig it up because things didn't go my way, if I dig it up because I lose my patience, if I dig it up because, man, oh, this system's meant to keep people out, this system's meant to fill an agenda, this system's meant to, if every time that happens, I dig my seed up, it's not going to be beneficial. It's the same thing with like people that hop church, right? If every time you dig your seat up because the preacher says something you ain't comfortable with, you're not going to grow. You're just not. Or if the only kind of church you want to be at is one that feeds you fluff and tells you how great you are and everything's going to be okay and never challenges you to change your life, then that ain't the place to plant your seed either, because you're not going to grow there either. Sorry, you're not. That's not good soil. But you've got to plant your seed in good soil and in a place where you're not afraid to work, not afraid to put in the work and the time and commit to doing what's necessary to cultivate that seed into growing into a plant and bringing that fruit into fruition or that flower to blossom. Because if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to go through the time and the process, you'll bring it to fruition and it'll be beneficial. And you won't be the only one to benefit from it. The people around you will benefit as well. So I want to encourage you, stop digging up your seed, plant it, commit to it, go through the process, cultivate it, and allow it to grow. I appreciate you guys. I really do. Thank you so much for your time. I want to encourage you again, take a minute. If you've enjoyed any of our content, then take a minute, write a quick little review recommendation for us on Facebook. It definitely helps us. Share the page, invite people to like the page. We definitely appreciate it. Catch us tomorrow night at 7:30, house call. We are going to be talking about counsel for evictions. It's been a topic of discussion in several states for quite a while, but specifically because of COVID over the course of the last, I would say 6 to 8 months, it's become a real hot topic nationally. So we're going to cover it and talk about it a little bit tomorrow night on House Call at 7:30 tomorrow night. So I want to encourage you there. Again, if you're in the local Olean, New York area at 6:30 tomorrow night, I want to encourage you to make your voices heard in reference to the Police Reform and Civilian Review Board as well. Here in Olean, and I want to encourage you to do that. Reach out to us as well if you want to get involved as far as the Media Hub's concerned. And again, thank you guys for all the love and the support. We definitely appreciate it. Look forward to hearing from you and continuing going forward. And as always, you guys, you pray for me, I'll pray for you, and we'll catch you next time on Reflections with Dr. Gary Harvey.